Welcome to But For Real, a variety show podcast co-hosted by two therapists who also happen to be loudmouth feminists. I'm Valerie, your resident elder millennial child-free cat lady.
And I'm Emerson, your resident chronically online Gen Z brat. And on the show, we'll serve up a new episode every other week that will take you on a wild ride through the cultural zeitgeist, mental health, and beyond.
You'll definitely laugh and TBH sometimes maybe cry a little because this is a silly and serious show.
Buckle up, my friends, and let's get into today's episode.
So I just called myself a beverage hoe.
Yeah, and I was like, beverage hoeing?
Beverage hoeing. You know, I've got my 3 beverages here, and listeners, or I should say viewers,
well, yes,
beware, and maybe there will be a prize. Who can count how many teeth that I get little pieces of frozen berries stuck between by the end of this episode? It will be several.
Well, and it's fine, because I'll just, guide the finger.
Already! In the middle!
It's a tiny speck.
Okay, well, guys, I'm just bringing it, inviting it.
Don't be that bitch that doesn't tell your friends that they have shit in their teeth. Like, I know I've made this statement before, but I feel passionate about this. I'm like, we can't.
Just know that for the next 52 minutes or however long this recording is, I know. Well, I know that it's there.
It's there.
But remind me before I leave this room.
I will. Yeah. Okay. You're sitting with clients later and they're like, hey, it's in there.
Yeah, that reminds me too. So a few of us from the Gaia Center were on a little road trip to Louisville.
Louisville.
Oh,
wow.
Out in for this little conference. Woods. And I just kept buying bags of popcorn for the car and calling myself a snacking ass hoe.
Snacking ass hoe. Love it.
So, it's a hoe is a lifestyle.
A boom chicka pop.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay. Well, we are talking spirituality today.
Well, yes.
And
gurus of it all.
Oh my gosh. Shall we begin? I would love to know with your spiritual history, have you had any sort of funny or embarrassing phases that you've gone through?
Yes, deeply. It would have to be the thing that I coined, of course, the astrology hoe phase. It's a symptom of the, being 19. Genuinely. That was my illness at the time.
That was our societal illness at the time. Oh, my
God, of course. I'm checking CoStar, and I'm, lurking in it deep.
What does Channy say?
What is it saying? And then I'm, cavorting with, the internet's worst pick of men, and being like, so what's your star sign? And thinking that I was going to be able to, make it work and save an Aquarius man. Hey, you can't ever save them, okay? It is not your fucking
Specifically
job.
The Aquarius? Or
I don't do Aquarius men. But, I love Aquarian people. My sister's an Aquarius. My best friend is an Aquarius. It's just the romantic match. We're not it. So I'm out here manifesting for Scorpio. Again, 19. And so I'm this 26-year-old ex-frat boy is the one. Hey, guess what? He wasn't. So just the way that I would be in that Bumble DM being thinking as if I'm some fucking astrologer. And I just wasn't. And I thought the tool kind of made me mysterious.
Yeah, so mysterious.
And nonchalant. Hey, if you've listened to anything or been around me for 5 minutes, I'm the most chalant bitch you've ever met in your life. I can't be nonchalant about anything.
Oh my God, that reminds
or mysterious.
me. That reminds me of a great little reel that I saw this weekend. It was, I know this is way before your time, but have you ever heard of the show Dinosaurs? It was
no.
Clay animation
of claymation,
kind of. Yeah, I don't know exactly what style of animation, but a very cool 3D but real life kind of animation style. Mid-90s, I want to say show. We'll have to look up a clip because it's iconic. And there's a baby dinosaur that is extremely chalant. And
I'm them.
Yeah, it was the reel was not me wanting to be mysterious, and meanwhile, this is my whole personality. I'm the baby, gotta love me.
Oh, that's so, I just found my spirit animal. Okay, tell me about your phases, if you've had them, and what's the two?
Astrology for sure was one, and listeners, if you are into astrology, we are not here to shit all over you.
I love astrology.
It is complex. It is nuanced, right? So we're just kind of when you make it your whole personality, right?
Insufferable.
But so I went through a phase where I was really trying to make myself believe a lot of things.
Yeah,
that my sort of inner wise voice was
yeah.
really? And then I would have all this judgment of like, you're not spiritual enough.
Ooh,
and
the
you're
inner
too
critic.
Intellectual and cognitive and like how lame.
Mm.
And so eventually I sort of got over that, especially, well, during the whole COVID conspirituality phase, which maybe we will get into.
Well, sure.
But yeah, it was a really good lesson in like that kind of thing, like these sort of, not even just evangelizing, but the sort of peer pressure to believe a certain thing is not reserved for mainstream religion. Like it happens in other spaces. And listener, the number one word of the day is discernment. Like just trusting yourself and just doing that inner discernment, what fits and what doesn't fit.
Yes, indeed.
Now it's time for our first segment, Tea and Crumpets, where we tell you what we can't stop talking about this week.
So Val, what's your tea? What's your crumpets?
My tea, and mind you, I am literally holding a coffee cup, and I used my other hand to mime having a teacup.
Thank you.
Because that makes sense.
What tea is this?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I don't have a little handle on my coffee
In
mug.
ASL, remember? This is
Oh,
tea.
yeah. So
Tea.
cute. Okay. So my tea is I am really loving my new recipe and cooking routine.
Okay, she's a chef.
I know, right?
They're fucking Taz.
Taz. I have finally decided, shocking, that cooking is a valid use of my time.
I mean,
Who knew?
You're growing up, I think.
And so and I've gone through many a phase of like, I'm doing this online meal planner service because it makes all the recipes and it tells me how to batch things and da-da-da-da. Like I've done a lot of things, I have a million cookbooks. So my most recent thing that's working really well is I will go through my cookbooks, usually just like 2 of them, so I don't overwhelm myself. On a Sunday, I will pick my recipes for the week, kind of looking ahead to the week, like when am I actually going to be home in the evenings to have time to cook? And then I will pick my few recipes. I will make my grocery list from those recipes, and then I will I put this all in my task management thing, which I use Tick. So I will put my grocery list in there, and then for each recipe, I will put which cookbook, what page, and I will assign it to which day that I'm going to cook it.
Nice.
So it's just all there in my Tick that I just look at every day.
Sure.
And then I'm actually like cooking the thing that I said I was going to cook because I assigned it to a specific day. So it's working well, and I'll keep you posted.
You're habit stacking, essentially, which is really smart.
Yeah.
Cool.
What about you? What's your tea?
Okay, my tea is a beverage, and it's just so funny. So I'm not above being a basic bitch.
Sure.
You know, like, I'm like, girls and everyone that likes to be basic, whatever.
Yeah, right.
So I have been frequenting the location Swig, if you will. Have you
I've not heard of Swig.
Oh, Lord have mercy. So this is fresh out of Utah, baby. The
So
Mormon
it's a chain.
population. Well, yes.
Okay.
The Mormon population, I believe, has spearheaded this dirty soda business. So this is all the rage right now.
Dirty soda. Does that mean there's espresso in it?
Well, I guess you could, but it's mostly like a pop. I say pops, don't like a soda or a Coke with like creamer or fruity syrup. It's very interesting because within, I don't know if all, but I remember with Mormon culture, they don't have caffeine. So like they're really big into soda, which like I don't know how that doesn't.
Like, well, but there are flavored sodas that you can be caffeine free.
Can be caffeine free. So there's 2 locations in Nashville. There's there's one in Brentwood and one in Spring Hill. And so specifically, the island time has been lodged into my brain. Let me walk you through.
Please.
It's a Fresca, which first off, I forgot that Fresca is tea. Now, if they're canceled or have bad business practices, I don't want to fucking know about it. Because that is a crisp can of that.
Do not take my Fresca.
No, don't take it away from me. That is getting me through 3 to 5 p.m. every day for the past week and a half. Like, I'm shackled to that can of Fresca. So it has Fresca, nice like pebbly ice, mango puree, passion fruit syrup, and then a little bit of coconut cream, and then an entire fresh squeezed orange.
Wow.
And then they cut the orange and leave it in the drink, so you have like a little orange surprise at the end of it, and it's been soaking in all the juices.
Ooh.
It is summer in a cup,
That sounds delicious. That sounds like the like actual beverage form of ocean water.
Yes.
From Sonic,
I
you
agree
know,
with
where
that.
it's like okay, this is clearly just chemicals.
Well, yes.
And water.
Yes.
But that sounds really tasty.
It's really refreshing, like on a nice hot summer day. It's kind of the go-to. So if you're in either of those areas, like go check
it out. Or wherever else you can find your local Swig.
Well, yes, go hit them up.
Okay.
Now it's time for Step Into My Office, where you get advice from your favorite professionally qualified, personally peculiar therapists.
This listener says, "Hi, Em and Val. I was walking through Marshall's recently listening to a podcast about impermanence. Suddenly, I locked eyes with a baby in a cart and I literally started choking back tears. I don't know if it was a breakdown or if that's what baby fever feels like or what, but I felt so weird and just hid away. I tried explaining this to my partner after the fact, but they looked at me like I had 3 heads. What even was that, and am I okay? Best, crying in the candle aisle."
I mean,
we all know that feeling, right?
Yeah, when a little chunky baby is just like, and I'm like, are you even real? What even is the meaning of life? And I'm like,
is there going to be a world for you when you're 50? Like, will you get to retire?
Have you heard about climate change? This is like a 2-month-old, like,
oh my God.
I'm just here with my mom.
Yeah.
No.
Those existential moments.
It's very
right?
existential. Listener, I feel like I've been there.
Yeah.
I've totally been there.
Yeah.
Those moments where you're just like, what does it mean? Or who are you? And what am I? And yeah, those moments. Is there a world left for you? Just like dealing with the existential crisis and how those can come up at any time. I would like to normalize that it can happen literally at Marshall's or, you know, in a very in-depth spiritual moment. But we're kind of being prone right now to have a lot of existential crises.
Yeah. And that reminds me too, like in some of my coursework, we were talking about like, where is the line between sort of spiritual crisis or just spiritual kind of transpersonal experience.
Yes.
And like mental health issue, right? Whether that's like psychosis or it's, you know, depression or whatever, right? Like there are things that we can very quickly pathologize just because maybe they feel different from our day-to-day experience.
That's true.
And now if you're having moments of like depersonalization where it's like, who am I? Like, what am I even? If you're having that frequently and it's distressing, that's one thing.
Yes.
But, like, it's also normal to have a little bit of that sometimes, right? Same with derealization. Like, is this even real?
Yeah.
Like, a little bit of that sometimes is more of the existential, what the fuck are we even doing here thing.
Sure.
Not mental health concern. It's just, if it's happening more and it's distressing you a lot, then, you know, talk to somebody about it.
That's true. Like, knowing where the line is, right? I was talking about this with someone the other day. And then I was also talking to my sister about it recently where we both were sitting there and she goes, do you ever look at mom and think, oh my God, this is my mom? And I'm like, yeah.
And came out of her.
And then we asked my mom that, like, you know, as our like her children, right? And my mom's just like, no. Like, and my mom's just like, no. Like, not thinking about it. And I was like, okay, that's tea.
And I feel like that brings up a good point of like, I think some people are maybe just more existentially inclined.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like just more sort of meta-awareness of consciousness and things like that. And right, there's no judgment of that one is better than the other. Arguably being unaware sounds great.
I would live. I love to put myself in existential torture. But yes, like knowing this always how we talk about with anything, right? Like where the line is, if it's like very significantly distressing to you, that's different. Being there and being like, oh my God. And like for your partner looking like, you know, you have 3 heads. It's kind of like my mom. She was just kind of like, no, what? I don't do that. And we were like, okay.
Oh my God.
And we got to talk about it together. So it's okay.
Yeah. So, listener, you're normal.
Yes.
And, you know, it's, who knows how much it had to do with baby or what, like, you'll find out. Just keep collecting data. Keep living your life. Okay.
Welcome to The Lore, where we share anonymous listener-submitted stories about literally anything. The more cringe or jaw-dropping, the better. To submit your story for a future episode, find deets on the gram at ButForRealPod or at GaiaCenter.co/podcast.
Today, everyone, we have someone in the live studio audience. It is our beautiful, wonderful Rebecca, and she is going to tell us the story, the lore, live. Our first live lore.
So exciting.
So exciting.
Oh my gosh, what a treat to be here.
You sat down and were like, good morning.
I don't know if you know this, Emerson, but I am the unofficial president of y'all's fan club. Real into the pod.
So obsessed. You do. You always let us know when you listen. It's so sweet.
I love it. Okay, but this lore.
Yes.
Let's see.
I would love to hear.
So let's go back to 2017. I am in a relatively serious relationship.
Well, yes.
And I end up going on a trip with my boyfriend, his brother, and the brother's girlfriend. So the four of us all go out to Big Bend National Park in Texas, which is like, if you've ever been out there, it's big. That's why they call it that. And we stayed in this little bitty airBNB Interlingua, which is like little ghost town, couple hours outside of Big Bend. Texas is huge. Anyway, this airBNB was like immediately weird vibes.
No.
Like, I was kind of into it because I'm kind of a spooky girl, but my boyfriend and his brother and brother's girlfriend were all raised Catholic.
Oh, so they were not fucking with it.
Not fucking with it at all. It was cool. It's like kind of an old ranch house, and you come in and there's like this kitchen area and then a little TV room, and immediately off of that is like a big empty shop. Like, I don't know, random crap all over, including a piano with a Ouija board mounted on the wall above the piano. I'm like, cool, vibes. And they're all like, nope, nope, nope. So anyway, this trip, I had just been getting over a stomach bug, so I decided to not go on the 7-mile hike with them.
Smart.
Yeah, I was like, I will stay and vibe at this airBNB with these ghosties. Will be cool. And I did. And I like hung out, watched movies all day. It was super chill. And then end of the day, they all come back. And my boyfriend, who like, we kind of had a high drama relationship.
Well, sure.
And, you know, looking back, not the healthiest. But anyway, we started to talk about something stupid. And then he said, oh, and of course, not to be like cliche, whatever, but there were Native American burial ground, like resting area near our airBNB. So we had like hiked up to that, checked it out. You know, I was trying to be very respectful.
Sure.
Z, my boyfriend, at the end of this long hike day, he comes in, sits down, makes a joke about, we should take that Ouija board up to the burial area. And immediately, the lights just in the room we were in went out. Just in that room. And I was so pissed. I was like, I have been here chill with these ghosties all day.
Well, sure. We're being respectful.
Yeah. You walk in and say one thing.
Oh, sure.
And now they're mad.
Why would a man be there?
Yeah. Right. And so anyway, the trip goes on. He keeps saying dumb shit. Things are escalating. It's the last night of the trip. And we get in some sort of dumb fight. And I decide I want to go sleep on the couch in that like little TV room area.
Sure.
And at one point in the night, I like rolled over and I saw someone walk up. And I saw like under the door, you know how you can see like shadow of feet? I saw that. And I was like, this bitch is coming over here to apologize. I don't even want to hear it. And I rolled over and went back to sleep.
Me.
Yeah. I talked to everyone the next day, and of course, no one had been in that room. It was unexplained, but I pretty much figured by the end of that trip, I was like, oh, these ghosties are telling me that I do not need to be with this dude. So, yeah, that's pretty much the lore of, yeah.
I'm just so obsessed with something coming up to the door and being like, girl, run! Like, it's like the Britney shirt, dump him. Like, you open the door, it's the ghost wearing the dump him shirt.
Literally.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad that you were being sweet and loving and respectful of this space, and they awarded you as such.
Thank you. I thought so, too.
And now it's time for the DSM. In our DSM, all varieties of dysfunction, spiraling, and meltdowns are welcome. In this segment, we break down complicated concepts and common misconceptions about mental health, well-being, and tell you what we really think.
So we've already been teasing a little bit about spirituality and being curious. So let's kind of start and set the scene by fleshing out spirituality and religion and the woo-woo conundrum. Because I feel like there's this Venn diagram in my brain and where we all culturally kind of intertwine these things together and how and why they're different. So what even is spirituality and how is this different from religion? I feel like that's a big question that I always get. So spirituality can be defined as an individual's personal journey. So think about personal growth, focus on self-discovery, and really parsing out personal meaning in life. Now, can all of those elements fit into religion? Yes, absolutely. And where I think some of the main differences between that is religion is typically emphasizing organized institutions with focuses on rituals, traditions, being centered around a specific higher power. So spirituality, again, can happen in an organized state if you would like, but I feel like most of the time it's kind of, on the outskirts, in the outliers, and it can be a multimodal process. And so if we're talking about this in the frame with existential exhaustion, obviously we're going to think of the word burnout. So just being burned out on life. But I pulled this from a Medium article from Our Heart, it plugged in the show notes. But existential exhaustion, they didn't coin the term, but they defined it as a prolonged state of emotional and psychological depletion caused by chronic survival mode, relentless emotional labor, and a loss of personal meaning. That really snatched my wig out of my head. I was like, okay, and if we think of that definition up next to burnout, which is, again, a similar pool, they're sisters and maybe not twins, but we're carrying the weight of constructing a meaningful life without instructions. That can be really overwhelming. Everyone is always asking, what's next? What should I do? What's the manual? Hey, there isn't a manual for a reason, right? Even though that can be, hard and frustrating. Of course, we're in late stage capitalism, climate crisis. We're all addicted to our phones, overstimulation. The dopamine receptors are fried. So that state of mind leads and exacerbates this existential exhaustion that we're having. And kind of the well-meaning advice of follow your bliss or do what's best for you, or those well-meaning words, which I think are fine. It's fine to say those things. I'm not saying that it's bad to say those things. But again, if you're more existentially fraught or curious, sometimes those statements can feel jarring to you. What should I do? What's the answer? What am I doing here? What's my purpose? The word purpose and how that shows up. So really wanted to just parse out those individual differences. Now I threw down woo-woo in this as well. I feel like that's its whole other subcategory, mostly derogatory, where it's oh, I don't do that woo-woo shit.
But I feel like there's also the people who are owning. They're owning. I'm very into woo.
Yes, very. I've always owned the woo because I'm I don't know what's out there. Right. Also, I know that for me, that's none of my business. I'm I can't question it all. I can. Right. And I have, but I won't do it anymore because it makes me exhausted. Right. So,
yes. And I feel like with the capitalism piece, we'll probably come back around to that several times. Oh, yeah. But it's I think in our deep hunger for meaning, then that's why everyone has a quarter life crisis and thinks they should be a life coach or a therapist, which to be fair, hi.
You're did both. Obsessed.
And so it's tough because obviously I am not one to talk and be oh my God, stop thinking that you just need to help other people find meaning as your source of meaning. That for some people can be very fulfilling, but it is almost this commercialized way of finding meaning. Oh, I finally found meaning in my life and it's helping others. Yes. So I'm going to go help other people. And then those people are going to discover that they should quit their jobs and also become a coach. And then we have a whole pyramid of coaches and people who are all helping each other find meaning. Meanwhile, who is cleaning the gutters and the drains and building the, whatever the fuck.
It's becoming Amway.
Yes. We do need people doing the real jobs. Not to say our job isn't real, but you get what I mean. We can't all be focused on meaning all the time.
No.
Or it just becomes this I don't know, this
clusterfuck.
Yes, vortex of meaning seeking.
Yes.
So yeah, it's kind of a mindfuck. And like, frankly, as much as I love helping people, myself and other people explore sort of meaning, purpose, etc.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, we long for, can I just be a barista? Can I work at Swig?
Can I be like the 16-year-olds working at Swig that are like, hey, can I have your number? And they type it in the little iPad and then they bring me a fruity drink.
And you know what? Maybe the purpose of life is just enjoying making little sodas for people and going for a walk with your dog and like taking a nap. And so it's all very tied up together in sort of what we have to do in our lives to like make paychecks and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And that may not be where we find meaning. And so where are we going to find it? Are we going to find it in church? Less so than it used to be, right? Okay, so looking at like this modern paradox of craving spiritual connection while also just being burned out by life, especially in our current society, there is this pressure to sort of become the best, highest self, right?
And quickly.
Version. Yes. Yeah. And what does that even mean, right? There's this constant chasing, and I'm so obsessed with this kind of topic because, again, I believe in personal development. I believe in the Maslow of it all, right? That self-actualizing and connecting with, you know, what is my sort of deeper dharma or thing that can help me grow as a human being. Sure. But also that can become very kind of existentially fraught, right? Mm-hmm. To what end? And when am I done? And when am I ever enough? So that is a deeply complicated exploration, and also something that has been really co-opted by a lot of the personal development or wellness industrial complex, right? Because it's like, well, we have just the thing for you to become this highest self, right? So we want to do the things that better ourselves, but we often, with this burnout, we lack the spoons to make it happen, right? To do the thing that might help us to feel more connected to ourselves or fulfilled. And again, like with the intersection of how capitalism like sort of co-ops all of these things. And it's hard because some of these tools like are fun, right? I think of, you know, the crystals and the tarot decks and whatever else. Like they can be very fun and they can be tools for exploration. But then companies are like, ooh, you know what the people will buy? We'll just make more, we'll make a shadow work journal and we'll sell it in a TikTok shop. And
you'll relentlessly get it every other video on your algorithm until you actually go nuts.
Yes, till you go insane. Yes. And then you're like, well, now I have some shadow work to do. I guess I need this journal.
The shadow part of me. I'm like, I'm writing in the journal, and then the journal flips over, and it's like, for $39.99, you can keep becoming the best version of yourself.
Which then makes church sound kind of great. Because, like, I mean, depends on the church, right?
Well, sure.
Church is not really trying to sell you stuff, but you do have to pay a lot to keep the church open and keep the people paid. And, of course, that's on a large spectrum because I've been, you know, in my old UU church, it's like we were just trying to keep the lights on and, you know, pay the minister like kind of a living wage. Whereas then there's these mega churches that are just like luxurious and kind of feels corrupt, you know?
I live right by a mega church.
Yes.
It's cray-cray.
So, you know, it makes sense why a lot of the ways that that has, again, gotten co-opted by humans and greed and all of that, that church doesn't often feel like home for a lot of people. Like there's this large ex-evangelical movement right now, right? A lot of people going through deconstruction, especially with Christianity, though not exclusively. So the millennials, the Gen Zs, they are showing up in spades in our offices like, help. What do I believe in?
Yes.
How do I make meaning in my life now that I have let go of this thing that doesn't fit for me? Now, some of them are still finding homes in different spiritual religious communities. But for many people, it's like, well, if I'm not finding it there anymore, where am I going to find it? Pew Research said that 1 in 4 adults under the age of 30 are unaffiliated with any particular religion. So they might self-describe as atheist, agnostic, or nothing in particular, or spiritual but not religious. And millennials are still largely more religious than Gen Z, so 19% unaffiliated. And then there's this kind of mix and match, like spiritual buffet.
Yes.
Which some people will say from any tradition, some people from any tradition might look at that and be like, well, if you drill a million holes, you're not going to get much water from that well, right? Yeah. But I think that if you're doing so respectfully, and what we have to be super mindful of here, of course, too, is cultural appropriation, right? Because for instance, there's a lot more awareness of that now even than there was 5-10 years ago.
I agree.
But when yoga first burst onto the scene and became super popular in the West, it was just like, namaste, bitches. And oh, yeah.
And did I have a shirt at 16 that said namaste in bed?
Right,
yes,
right. We were all, raise your hand if you were guilty, right? Yeah. So we didn't understand. Now we know better. We can do better, right?
Yes.
And same thing with all of the Native American spirituality that's been co-opted by, sweat lodge ceremonies and these treatment centers that are all run by white people, things like that. So, it doesn't mean you can't be inspired by traditions, but for instance, it's part of what drew me to Druidry is it's a nature-based spirituality, but it comes from, a land and culture that is much more kind of what I can claim in my own ancestral heritage.
Sure.
Why I think the Native American practices are lovely and so brilliant.
Beautiful.
They're not necessarily mine, so I can be inspired by them, but I want to be mindful that I can, as Susanna Barkataki writes, honor the roots of these traditions rather than appropriate.
Ooh.
So, and so we have to really look at when you're going to the spiritual buffet, be aware that you might constantly be seeking novelty that might not actually help you go deep with anything.
And that's the difficult parts, right? When we're talking about, the split part of the double-edged sword of that, where you're burnt out and feeling so malnourished just within your energy. And so having some hodgepodgery, having a smorgasbord of options can kind of tickle, at least from an ADHD, can kind of tickle that a little bit where it's ooh, I can kind of make the buffet I would like. And also when it then gets too much, when it's appropriating, or you're just overwhelmed. You're trying to learn way too much shit from all different schools of thought.
Right.
And then it's not actually helping you integrate anything like you were saying. And so that directly bleeds into the conversation about spiritual bypassing, which we could not bring up here. So just kind of the shadow sides of spirituality. Most importantly, how we talk about spiritual bypassing, the term and everything was coined from John Wellwood, who is a leading figure in transpersonal psychology. And he defined spiritual bypassing as using spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, and developmental tasks. So you're talking with your friend who just came back from a week-long retreat, and they have that post-retreat buzz, and it's so good, and they had fresh fruit every day, and they went for walks, and they did yoga, and they did a few spa treatments, and they're feeling enlightened, and it's awesome. And then the next week they're wait, I need 3 body workers, and I need to immediately sign up for the next retreat, and I need to do this, and I need to do that. Baby, what you need to do is go to therapy and do your laundry.
And touch grass.
Quickly! Get those pigs in the grass. And so again, go to that retreat. It's amazing. And also, what are you doing outside of the retreat? What are you doing outside of therapy? What are you doing?
Yes. Where do you need to face your life?
Yes.
Right? And I have seen this come up, where people are so embedded in the spiritual world, and then they are not really wanting to engage in reality in ways that we kind of have to if you don't want to get evicted for a third time.
Yes.
And I don't want to engage in this world because I don't care about it. That's it, even if we look at that psycho-spiritually, and I was looking for the book, I think it's in the other room, but Anadea Judas, Eastern Body, Western Mind is a really, really lovely book that kind of looks at developmental stages through the lens of the chakra system.
Interesting.
And also the sort of traumas that can happen. But that description is somebody who's sort of overloaded in their upper chakras. I'm all about sort of the spiritual, the intellectual, the, universal oneness, but I am not grounded in my root chakra of like, understanding that I got to keep a roof over my head and treating my body well and getting enough sleep and all of that. So there can be a lot of imbalance there. And again, so like this stuff happens both in like traditional religious communities. We might think of like the family who sort of like pray it away, or like, oh, I don't need therapy, I'm just, giving it over to God kind of thing. But then also very much in new age spaces, like with the retreats and all these other kind of like, esoteric things that we want to engage in.
Yes. Like going to core power is important. And, what else is there? Yeah, just making sure that you're having awareness of your shadow part, right? Like what it means in your ego, what it means in your shadow. Cut to our episode a few episodes ago about parts work, right? Like all of that as an integrated part of you. And then, okay, you may like have like painful shit, right? Like legit painful stuff, traumas that feels easier to leave and give in to in that way. And also like the reckoning of like facing your own stuff. The empowerment in that, the spirituality inherently behind integrating all of those parts of yourself to be the best version of yourself. Like that to me is kind of what the highest version of yourself is are you aware of all of the previous parts of yourself and how they still live within you and how that influences you in your life and as you make decisions, who shows up, who's in the driver's seat, who's not. And like, of course, that's one piece of the pie in terms of all of this. But yeah, just being aware of the bypassing and what that means.
Cool. And then looking at the existential piece, so I feel like there are some core existential issues that can come up that without either a grounding in something sort of spiritual or religious, or a different sort of, maybe you don't call it spiritual, but for you it is just more existential. Without some piece of that, you're probably not going to be okay, right? There is no CBTing your way out of this kind of stuff. No. Like you have to ground yourself into some framework for meaning and understanding your place in the world. So Yalom is one of the OGs of existential psychotherapy. And of course, existentialism as a philosophical movement started earlier in like the 1800s, Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, and then, to Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir. I'm sure I said that wrong. How the fuck do you say French names? I don't know. But into then the existential psychotherapy world where it was like, oh, turns out these concepts are super useful to bring into a therapeutic context because people are grappling with these issues that are not just about their family of origin. Yeah. They're not just about, needing to reframe their thoughts. They're grappling with the existential givens, which Yalom put into these categories of death, freedom, isolation, and meaninglessness. Cool, yay! Right? You can see why I'm chosen to spend 5 years of my life studying existential psychology, because the topics are so fun. But really, like, we all exist with these things as our companions. We are aware of our mortality, and we have to have, they call it moral salience, or mortal salience. You have to have just enough awareness of your own mortality, not too much.
Not too much, right? Because you're going to be clutching those pearls.
Yes. So, like, finding those ways of, like, we have to have healthy defenses against thinking about our own death all of the time.
Yes.
But if we are overly defended, that's where a lot of our neuroses come in. Freedom, meaning we are responsible for shaping our own lives. Beautiful, but also that's a lot of fucking pressure.
Scary.
Right? Freedom and choice all of the time. Yes. Right? And then frankly, for people who, this is a lot of what I see with like high performers, high achievers, when you reach a place in your life where you have more options, sometimes that freedom can be crippling of like, how do I spend not only just today, but like, if I have all these options, what do I do? What's the right choice? So we all deal with that. Isolation. No one else can live our lives for us. And guess what? You may come in here as two, like inside of somebody's womb. You leave it alone.
Alone. I tell people all the time, when people say like, what do you mean? What's the relationship that I have towards myself? I say dead ass. What is the relationship that you have towards yourself? Because you have to wake up with you every day.
Every day.
You have to live with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah. You better learn to like that person.
And quickly. And it doesn't have to be quickly.
Right. But it's
got to be there.
Yes, we need each other. We are inherently relational creatures.
Oh, sure.
And also, you're walking around in this one little meat sack all the time, and you're responsible for, being with yourself and dealing with that reality of the loneliness that we all carry inside.
Yes.
And then meaninglessness, good old meaninglessness. The existentialists would say there's not necessarily some inherent meaning, like some grand truth of like, God has a plan for all of us and we're just living out our destiny. So we have to, again, make our own. We have to find our own meaning. And shit, if Viktor Frankl can do it in the concentration camps when his whole family is being killed, we can step up to that task. And most of us are regular ass lives.
Yes. Again, that question of like, I think about this all the time, and I frame this for clients literally in the bodily way. I have to make meaning of my life. I have to do this. I have to live with myself for the rest of my life. I get to live with myself for the rest of my life. Just that immediate down to upward shift. Starting there even if you don't believe it. I get to do something with me today. I get to go and do this opportunity and have it mean whatever it needs to mean for me. And that's fine. Mm-hmm. That's totally fine. So, Father Yalom, how is he suggesting that we cope? And has suggested that we cope with all of this. So, connection as the balm for isolation. Again, those deep, authentic relationships that can help just provide the meaning, whether it's the roles that you play in those relationships or what you learn from these people, what you take from the relationship, what it means for you. So even if we're kind of sitting, some of my favorite thing to do is sit with my friends and be like, I'm existentially freaking out. And they're like, yeah, me too. And I'm like, and we're doing it together. Thank God. Thank God. So definitely connecting and leaning into your relationships. What does it mean to have depth there? Legacy and creativity as some of the meaning makers. So leaving something behind, even a well-timed meme, of your funniness, can soothe some of that fear of impermanence. Shout out to the Marshalls, baby. That's making us think of those things. And so legacy can mean anything. Again, legacy for some people is starting a family and having children and having a little bit of those parts still living within you. It can be the job or the space that you're taking up. It can be the art that you make. It can be anything.
It can be how you live. Like being one of those people that at your, memorial service, people just talk about how you lived your life. Yeah. Like that's a legacy.
100%. Facing death can make us feel more alive. Again, everyone gets shook by this because of death anxiety. Hey, also, I have death anxiety, bad, the house down, but you wouldn't believe the times where I'm just paralyzed by death. But again, that acceptance of mortality can make us awakened and more aware to the present moment and why that's so important. Through Mary Oliver in here, what is it that you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? I love that. Yep. It's like the sad parts of it, and then it's like, wait, we have time. Mm-hmm. We have time to go and do the things. And again, we don't need the grand answers. It's just honest living and being. I think that's like the thing. Everyone kind of chuckles in my life, but I'm like, the older that I get, right, the more time that I'm just sitting back and I'm like looking at the sky and I'm looking at the trees and I'm putting my feet in the dirt and I'm just like noticing what the breath feels like. And it's just, when I'm in a moment, I'm trying really hard not to be pulling myself out of it thinking, okay, I need to go home and this and that. Like just be with your friends, be with your loved ones, be with your coworkers, be with whoever, be with yourself.
Yeah. And you're just becoming. Right? And you don't even have to know what or who you're becoming. You're just becoming. And as David Whyte says, like living into the beautiful questions. We don't even have to try to answer them. Just live into them.
Just live.
Okay, so let's talk about a few low stakes practices. Sure. Both for our woos and our skeptics.
Well, yes. Because you can be skeptical and still light a candle.
Exactly. Look at the flame, honey.
Look at the flame. It'll straighten up the more time you look at it.
I know. So how to feel connected when you are fried, when you are dealing with not only late stage capitalism and this shitstorm of a political time, but also just living with these existential givens that have always been part of this whole being human thing. So engage your senses, just like you were describing, like be in your life, feel the day, as Brendan Burchard says, a coach that I love. Like we can achieve a whole lot of things, but if we're just sort of like checking things off the list and just like performing life, you start to feel very empty very quickly, no matter what is in your bank account, no matter, you know, what accolades you have. So feel the day, be in your experience. It's such a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. Like, be present, but like really ask yourself, like, what can I do to be in my life a little bit more today?
Mindfulness. Right? I have clients that I love, but they'll fight me. And I do too. I fight my own mindfulness every day sometimes. And then I'm like, no, that's what this is about.
Right. And like allow yourself to do it in a way that feels more authentic and less box checky. Yes. Because believe me, I have been in those phases where I'm like, I'm doing my daily meditation. And like, it's not bad, but it's very much feels like checking a box. Whereas if I'm like, you know what kind of practice would feel nourishing to me right now? Would it be a walking meditation? Would it be like whatever it is? What would feel nourishing to me? Earthing, grounding, of course. And that's like reconnecting to the fact that, hi, we're all animals. And yet we've created these very comfortable boxes for ourselves, these clothing, these shoes. And it's really cool. There's like a great little short documentary you can find on earthing online.
Really?
And it's very inspiring because you'll be like looking at the data of just how much like our lack of connection with the earth, like direct connection, has probably contributed to inflammation, which is the cause of so many health issues.
Yes.
So yes, basically just go and put your piggies in the grass. You know, sometimes I will even go for like a partial barefoot hike because you never know. Sometimes there's like little rocks and stuff and you got to be careful. But I'll like bring a little bag and I'll have my shoes in there so I can put them on when I need to.
Cute.
Yeah, it's really fun. And people look at you funny and they're like, do you know you're barefoot? And you're like, yeah, I fucking know.
My shoes are in a fucking Walmart bag. Like, yes.
Singing, humming, dancing, shaking. And again, I think of like our animal nature and just like what it's like to be by yourself or in a group of people where you're just like in the moment, moving your body. And there's like kind of nothing more beautiful, right?
Yes.
Especially when you can do it in a way where you're not performing, you don't care, you're not feeling self-conscious, you're just existing in that experience.
Oh yeah, go to a rave.
Oh yeah, I've never been to a rave.
What?
Have you ever been to an actual rave?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know actually.
Like what counts, right?
Like I don't know.
Yeah, like EDM, I feel like
Bonnaroo, I'm like there barefoot.
Sure.
Like
I feel like I need to like
hour.
What's the maybe I need to Burning Man. I need to go to a burn.
Should we go to a burn?
Can you picture us? I'm like bringing my comfort pillow and like my entire setup.
I'm bringing my CPAP machine. I'm like trying to plug it into the grass.
Oh my God. Also, read, listen, watch something that moves you. And I love that phrase, right?
Yes.
Something that moves you. Oh my God. You know what doesn't move me is being on my phone, but every now and then, you know, you come across something like, I swear for me, it's usually the animal videos.
Me too.
Right? Where it's like, it is moving. It is moving. And someone, I'm going to have to look it up after this and put it in the show notes. I think it's called Deeply After or Deep After. It is an Instagram account that just popped up on my feed the other day. Somebody has taken like Alan Watts clips who talk about like beautiful existential words, especially like in his original voice recordings from like the 50s and 60s. So they have taken Alan Watts recordings. I don't know if it's only him, but the one I watched was. And they have pulled a bunch of like cat clips together and put like a little vintage filter on it. I thought I was enlightened in that moment. And I started following the account and they have something coming out, like website, like coming soon, sign up. And I'm like, sign me up. I don't know if it's going to cost something, but take my money because it was so deeply moving. So look for those things. And, you know, and if it's your phone feels the opposite of moving to you, obviously you can look elsewhere.
Sure.
But I know for me, like, you know, maybe it's like setting a timer or things like that of like, okay, I'm going to check a few of my little animal accounts and then I'm going to put the phone away.
Sure.
Right. Because it sucks meaning.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So, but for real.
But for real.
Spirituality is an inherently personal experience. You gotta go your own way. You gotta do this your own way. Your own way. Listen, vocalists here. So don't feel pressured, right? To join anything, believe anything, or buy anything spiritual. And it's okay to be a little existentially fried and to want something more. Curiosity oftentimes is the agent. It's enough. And slowing down is enough. Yep. And you are enough, too.
Amen.
Amen. Woo! This is church up in here.
And now, our musical segment. Now that's what I call Okay, where Emerson and I each share a song with each other each week as representatives of our respective generations. We tell you a little bit about the song or artist, and then we press pause, we share the song with each other, and then we come back for our live reactions. And we're capturing it all on a Spotify playlist linked in the show notes for you.
The song that I wanted to share today is from one of my all-time favorite artists, Aimee Mann. Even if you don't think you know her, you've for sure heard a couple of her songs. Okay. But she's an indie queen. She's been putting out records, lol, since...
Okay, boomer.
Since the mid-90s. And some of her best shit, I mean, some of her more well-known songs are from the late 90s. But she continues to put out amazing music. And this is from her 2017 album, Mental Illness.
Obsessed.
Right? The song is called Goose Snow Cone. And as I was researching for the pod, I found this lovely quote that I had never read before, and now it makes me appreciate the lovely video even more. So before we watch the video, I'm just going to tell you guys a little bit about this song from Aimee. She said, I wrote Goose Snow Cone when I was on tour in Ireland on a cold and snowy day. I was feeling very homesick when I saw a picture on Instagram of a cat I know, once again, the animals on Instagram, named Goose. Her fluffy white face was looking up at the camera in a very plaintive way, like a little snowball, and I started singing a little song about her that turned into a song about loneliness. Hello, Existentialism. I intended to change the lyrics, but never could find a phrase to replace the one I started with. When it came time to make a video, I knew the original Goose had to be in it. Her owners are my friends Rob and Paloma, who coincidentally produce and direct videos. One of my cats had recently gone through a long illness, and I was thinking about that when I came up for the idea for the video, and I knew Paloma had to star in it as she has a very lovely and expressive face. The vet in the video is my actual vet, and he's a great guy. It was not easy wrangling Goose, but the magic of editing makes it all work.
Wait, I'm so excited.
Okay, come over and watch the video.
It's so cute. It's so sweet. Little Goose.
It's wholesome.
I need to go listen to this whole album.
Yeah, it's legit.
In the middle of, I was like, said in the halfway through, I was like, is this 25-year-old of me? But like, it feels Joni Mitchell coded.
Probably. I was never a huge Joni fan. Not on purpose.
Same.
I didn't like dislike her.
No.
But Aimee Mann is
just like her vibe.
So good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yay. What's your song?
Be ready. This is the song that I listen to when I'm in the car freaking out, at home freaking out, outside freaking out,
anywhere
at work freaking out, just literally freaking out. And so you're not a stranger to Lizzy McAlpine. We've listened to her before. Haunting. And so all I put for this is, we been know this hoe gets me in my feels. This is from her third studio album, Older, that released last year. So no music video for it yet. But it is my perfect existential AF song. So
okay.
I hope you enjoy.
Wow.
I feel like I just brought trauma to the building. I was like, good morning, Monday.
Morning. Good morning. Everything is meaningless and we're all going to die.
I'm like, did she just fucking stab us? Be honest.
But it's so...
She's haunting.
Yes, haunting is the perfect word because it's like, it's devastating, but also there's like an innocence and a purity to it.
Yes.
Especially in that lovely lyric video. Yeah, it's just one of those things that I think brings you to that existential truth of recognizing that, this is like all meaningless and also beautiful, like these animals running around with no self-awareness, and yet just pure existence.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, and just the carousel ride, like being a kid and just like being there and like not knowing yet. Like, I wish I knew what the end is, but we can't know, you know?
And thank God.
And thank God. And also the parts that really want to know, but it's okay not to know.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Good shit.
And now for our last segment of the show, welcome to Fire Dumpster Phoenix. It is rough out there, y'all, and we need all the hope we can get. It's time to go dumpster diving for some positive news and rise from the leftover Happy Meal ashes together.
So, my good news for this week. This was so beautiful. I was literally crying reading this. So, Rand Laycock from Ohio is a music conductor dealing with Parkinson's disease for just about over a decade. And so, obviously, you're conducting. This is drastically beginning to impede his work by needing to have steadiness over his hands. So, unable to control his tremor with medication alone, he learned about deep brain stimulation, which they coined DBS, at the Cleveland Clinic, and has underwent surgery to have a device implanted to deliver electrical currents to specific parts of the brain that control movement and helps to modulate the abnormal brain signals that are caused by Parkinson's. So he's seen great success with DBS, hey, that rhymes, within the past year, and is now interested in pursuing further technology to aid his tremors and to get back to the things he loves. And in the article, he was just saying, like, I know it can be really scary to, like, undergo brain surgery, but, like, this has literally given me, like, a second outlook on my life. You know, like, when I got the diagnosis, the doctor told me, like, this didn't have to be my death sentence. And so he was really just kind of putting it out there that although it's a really big and can be a scary thing, but it's really changed his life. And he's interested in continuing, I think it's the adaptive DBS. So there's like further technology happening. I just think, again, like I'm always wowed by science, a little bit of existentialism in this, right? And, you know, a disease that can really overtake someone's life. But he's like 60 and he's like, I have more life left to live. So really, really cool.
Amazing.
Shout out science.
Cool. Okay, so my story also is dealing with people in the second half of life. But in South Africa, where these soccer grannies are taking the field for kicks and camaraderie.
Ew.
So there is a woman in South Africa, Bika Nsanwisi. We're going to go with that.
Yeah.
Sanwitsi, who was a former gospel radio DJ.
Love.
And like way back when South Africa was really going through the AIDS crisis, she was seeing a lot of these older women lose their adult children and then raising these orphaned grandchildren, and just like, who's taking care of them? Like, who's taking care of these older women who have just spent their whole lives now being caretakers? So, you know, long story short, as a neighborhood little soccer game one day with this group of young boys turned into like the ball kicks over to this woman. She's like, wait a second, that was fun. And so they, she brought together some women and was just like, hey, let's try this out.
Sure.
One of them, or I guess this was her, she said, soccer takes your whole body and mind. The game takes care of you. And the women take care of each other, which often is not something they've experienced from other people in their life. So there's a local undertaker who sponsors a number of the teams for older women, who says many people don't see grannies as people anymore. It's like we've discarded them. Watching them play is such a source of joy. So this has become like a whole big thing. Like there's multiple teams and leagues. And I was just like, that is so cool. Yeah.
Life never make the meaning. It never ends. It never ends.
You make the meaning. Yep. I love it.
Grannies. Are we going to being old ladies playing soccer?
Maybe. And plus a lot of them didn't even take it up for the first time until they were approached with this opportunity.
I'm obsessed with that.
I'm like, it's not too late for me. Maybe I will still learn a team sport. Okay.
Go D1.
That's all we got.
That's all we have for this week.
That was fun. So, go reflect on your life.
Like, go ponder and, like, touch grass and, like, hug your loved ones and, like, it's okay to get old.
Yeah.
Just slow down.
Yep.
Just slow down.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.
This has been another episode of But For Real, produced by Valerie Martin and Emerson Ryder and edited by Sean Conklin. But For Real is a Gaia Center production. The Gaia Center offers individual, couples, and group therapy for clients across Tennessee and in person in our Nashville office, as well as coaching for clients worldwide. For show notes or to learn more about our work, visit GaiaCenter.co or find us on Instagram at the Gaia Center and at ButForRealPod.
But For Real is intended for education and entertainment and is not a substitute for mental health treatment.
Also, since we host this podcast primarily as humans rather than clinicians, we are not shy here about sharing our opinions on everything from snacks and movies to politicians and social issues.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode.
See you next time, bestie.